Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, President and CEO of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. And welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Dr. Laquore J. Meadows. From poverty to Ph.D., Dr. Laquore J. Meadows is a visionary, dynamic leader, and wealth builder, and the CEO and co-founder of Invest to Give, LLC. Inspired by the life and legacy of Dr. McLeod Bethune, she began her stock trading career with the aspiration to build and leave a financial legacy that will become the answer to someone's prayers. She has released the #1 Amazon best-selling ebook, Income on Demand, the complete playbook for beginning stock traders to give beginners a peek into the world of stock trading and investing. She is also the founder of Stocks and Sorrows, an initiative created to encourage members of Black Greek sororities to become active participants in the stock market. Dr. Meadows received her bachelor's degree from Tennessee State University, master's in college student personnel from Miami University, and a doctorate in higher education administration from Ohio University. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Dr. Laquore J. Meadows. Hello, Dr. Meadows. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you on the show this evening and cannot wait to hear more of your story. But of course, before we do that, would you please tell my listeners a little bit more about who Dr. Laquore J. Meadows really is?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. And also thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak with your audience as well. So when I think about who I am, first and foremost, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm a daughter of the King. I'm a child of God. But I'm also a person who is on a mission to both build and to leave a financial legacy that will someday be the answer to someone's prayers. And the reason for that is that I just truly am inspired to be of service to people and to organizations that have truly helped my life to be different and have enabled me to help others as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds beautiful. And I can't wait to hear more of your story and, the thought process of what you're doing when we're talking about investing. That is something that most people in our Black communities don't talk about. They don't even understand it. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing how this vision came to you and what really truly makes you decide that you wanted to move in this direction, Dr. Laquore.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So you want me to begin to share a little bit about my journey and how I got started? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Well, my interest in the stock market is something that is not completely new. I've always had some level of interest in being a long-term investor. However, did not always have a sound understanding of what it meant to trade on the stock market. But the reason why I really started down this journey was really around a woman who I had an opportunity to engage with, who was so gracious enough to give the organization that I once led a $5.3 million gift.
Wow.
And when I say I was so inspired by that and so inspired by the process of just working with her, and she literally did not blink during this entire process.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so inspired just by her generosity, as well as just about the fact that she was that wealthy,
mm-hmm.
that I was just thought to myself, I really want to be in position to be able to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, she and I had a chance to take a couple of road trips because she donated some money for us to build a building. So we would go and travel to different places. And during our time together, I learned that she accumulated a lot of her wealth from the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
And that just really blew my mind. So, okay, all right, I got to figure this thing out. And
right.
Yes, and so from there, that's when I just started really reading everything I possibly could, start taking classes, hire coaches, you name it, anything I can get my hands on to learn more about investing. And that's when I uncovered trading, is when I was all in. And so from there, during that process, I just absolutely fell in love with the stock market, fell in love with the global and interconnected nature of the stock market, and began making money, telling my friends about it. They're like, teach me. And so from there, I began teaching others, and ultimately started my business, which is Invest to Give. And I named it that because I am investing so that I can give back to the people and the causes that I care most about. So
Wow.
That's where I started.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I like how you talk about just that one person. It usually takes one person or one thing or something we hear that just, it just makes us explode on the inside, and it intrigues us to the point where you really, really want to do something dynamic and different. But, your journey, obviously being a doctor, is a huge accomplishment. So, taking those steps and that takes years to get accomplished. And then here you are utilizing one tool, and then you've found another tool, another resource and way in order to help people really see their vision, really understand how you can become a dynamic leader in wealth building versus just being a dynamic leader and success in a way of, hey, well, I'm in business and I'm successful. But being a wealth builder is something that in our own communities, we just don't talk enough about, and we don't hear enough about. We don't invest into it. We don't understand it. And the big part is just because we don't understand it. So talk about that journey of really trying to understand what stock trading really is all about.
Absolutely. So it's been quite a journey. And I'll actually start back to where you mentioned we do not talk about this at all. I was also in a household where information about money, information about real estate, stocks, none of that was a conversation around my dinner table. But what I did learn was credit.
Yes.
My mother and my aunt would literally have competitions around who had the most credit cards. They would pull out their little plastic, kind of picture thing. And,
oh my gosh!
And so it was a whole thing in our family. That's who had the most credit cards. And so I went to college literally believing that was my thing to do, was to get as many credit cards as I possibly could. And so that left me in a state of, having horrible credit when I graduated from college. And so it was just, it was quite an experience. So, although I'm heavily engaged in the stock market now, I think it's important for me to also share that has not always been my story by any means. It's been a journey, moving from a place where I traded my credit score for a T-shirt to a place where I started to engage in stock trading, which, I want to answer your question, has definitely been a phenomenal one. And so as it relates to the journey specifically around trading stocks, when I began to research this world called the stock market, once I figured out that's how our donor had accumulated her wealth, I started going to YouTube and watching YouTube videos and researching, learning the respective terms, spending time in Investopedia. And I came across a number of different people who were trading. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. This is okay. So I started really spending some time digging in and began practicing trading myself. Lost money.
Right.
Lost money at the beginning. But then I began taking classes and reading books and so forth. So then I really developed a strategy that was really good, that worked. And with the help of classes, of course. And so from there, that's where it started. And continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to lose money. Okay, it's a part of the process. But then once I matured as a trader, and that's when the impact truly came. And so that's one thing I work with my students now. My whole thing with when I share with them is that, yes, I can teach you the skill of trading all day, but what I want you to do is become a masterful trader, okay? Right. So we can make money, but we must keep it. We must keep it. Exactly. And so trade management was one of those journeys that I definitely had to navigate through myself, and I help other people understand how to do that too.
Wow. Well, I loved your story, first of all. I mean, to sit there and talk about the credit cards, you know, see who has the most credit cards. I mean, it's funny.
Oh, yes. Even a whole competition.
Right. But it's funny, but it's not funny because you learned a valuable lesson from that's not the right way to do anything, is to have a ton of credit cards. But we still have and see and hear these stories consistently where you have people who are getting credit cards and they're not really utilizing them in a proper way. And then they realize, oh my gosh, I got to pay all this back. And then they end up they can't. 90% of them can't. So, you know, to hear that portion of your story, it's funny, but the valuable lessons that you learn to realize that, you know what, I can't move on into life having a bunch of credit cards, and it doesn't matter how much education you have. You know, if this is the route that you're going and doing these things in the wrong manner, you're never going to really make it to where you need to be at. Then all you're going to be doing in your whole life is paying back credit cards, right? So that's not the avenue that we want to go down. But to hear your story about the understanding what stock trading is and the way you had to go about doing it sounds, you know, average for those people who are trying to learn it, you know, understand it. I think stock trading is still always the hardest thing to explain to people. And I think, you know, having the experience that you have is great because with your business, Invest to Give is an awesome thing to do. But can you explain in layman's terms what stock trading is? Because I know if the listeners here listening, and if they don't understand, never done it, we know that there's that huge group of people out here who have a fear of what stock trading really is. Can you put it in layman's terms for everybody?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. So when we think about investing and we think about trading, oftentimes those words are used interchangeably, but there really is a fundamental difference. So when we talk about investing, it's when we are actually acquiring partial ownership over a publicly traded company. So you may be saying, okay, so what's a publicly traded company? So think Macy's, think Walmart, think Boeing Airlines, think McDonald's. So any of those companies that you and I go to on a regular basis and we purchase items from, we have the capability to actually become a partial owner of those companies as well. So when we're investing, we're purchasing shares of stock that we can hold on to for an extended period of time. Now, typically, as an investor, you want to hold on to those shares for 12 months or longer. Okay, that's considered an investment. Whereas when we talk about trading, what we're doing is we're still using shares of stock to generate money, profits, but we're doing it in a shorter period of time. So as a trader, you can purchase shares of stock and hold on to it for, you know, a couple of seconds, a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Anything that's less than a year is typically considered a trade, right? The way that I trade, I'm a day trader where I can trade, I get in and out of trades through the day. But then also I do something called swing trading. I teach swing trading. That's a longer term strategy. So holding on to shares for an extended period of time, but under a year. Wow. Okay, so that's the difference. Pretty much, to wrap a bow around it, it's long term. Investing is the long term, and then trading is the more of a short term opportunity to generate income.
Okay. Well, and thank you, because like I said, I think there's a lot of people who don't understand. So when they don't understand something, it's the fear, and like, I'm not doing that. Who's going to mess with my money like that? So a lot of people don't get it. And my thought process is, look, if you don't know how to do it, hire somebody who can do it for you. If you don't feel comfortable enough, but I still think that you should have some education, some understanding of what you're getting into, because as you said, it's one of those situations where it's an up and down scenario. You can make big big money. You can lose big money if you don't know what you're doing and don't know why you're even involved with stock trading. So let me ask you this question: with what we have going on in the world today, with the wars, we hear a lot on the news, obviously now that, the stocks are going down, everything's going crazy right now. What would your advice be for those individuals who are doing stock trading right now? And then, of course, we have, inflation, going on, the oil, all these things around us are going berserk. What are you telling your people today, who are involved with stock trading or who want to do it, or they may want to, take their money now because they're scared? What's your advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a lot to say about that.
Go for it, Dr. Meadows.
Yes. So I think what's so wonderful is that these are truly exciting times, to be honest, because as a stock trader and those who are in the midst of learning stock trading, this is showing us just how important understanding the interconnectedness of our globe truly is, right? Mm-hmm. So we have an entire conflict happening over in Russia and Ukraine. We have inflation issues because of increasing prices, and then the interest rates are being increased to lessen that. I mean, there's so much that's happening. This is such a wonderful educational moment in our nation that it just blows my mind. So it makes me excited. So the things that I say, okay, so here's what I've told my students, is that one, let's all understand that cash is a position. Okay? Cash is a position. So I am one who I encourage my students to not feel compelled to trade every day. Okay? If the volatility in the market is too much for you in this moment, it's probably best to hold on to our cash until things kind of settle out and calm down some. So what do you do during the time when this volatility is existing? You create a shopping list. Because a lot of these companies are literally on clearance right now. I think yesterday they called a bear market. The day before that, they called a bear market. So meaning that the overarching market has fallen 20% from its recent high, which means that there are a lot of great companies, fantastic companies out here that, due to no fault of their own, they are now trading in cost a much lower amount than they have in recent history. Okay? So this has given us a really great opportunity for us to, when we see evidence, not just any time, but when we see evidence that the market is beginning to rally back up, this is a great time for us to acquire more shares or acquire shares of companies that otherwise we might not have acquired. Okay? So we can do that both in stocks as well as options trading. So there are a lot of opportunities that exist there. So that's what I'm encouraging my students to do. Now, I'm also saying for those who are already in positions, I always say, okay, where are my visual learners? Okay, where are my visual learners? So we'll open up and we'll take a look at a stock chart. And we'll look at, okay, let's pull out the S&P 500, for example. That has 500 U.S. companies, right, on it. If we look at the S&P and we look at a stock chart, we can see on that chart, yes, there's been times when the market pulls back, right? It happens. That's a part of the whole market. But if you just hold on, right, if you just hold on, if we look at, like, over time, the market does not, mostly, it moves in a positive direction. So if you are not in need to liquidate your stocks right away, yes, this may be painful, but we may just need to hold our nose, underwater for a little bit. Hold on. History tells us that it will come back.
Right.
It will come back.
Right.
And, of course, I can't say that definitively or anything, but if we look at history, it tells us that the market will rally again.
Exactly.
So that's what I've been saying.
Well, and that's great, and that's great information.
Yes, I'm sorry,
and
I got a lot to say.
No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I know. I was saying, I'm sorry I have a lot to say about that because I get so excited. I mean, it really is exciting times. And one more thing, and now I'll stop, I promise. as a stock trader, it doesn't matter the direction that the market's moving in, because you can make money as the market rallies as well as when it pulls back.
Okay.
So understanding how to navigate it in both directions can still be a very profitable opportunity for someone.
But I think a lot of what you're talking about too is just people being patient and understanding, you know, how the system works. I mean, it is what it is, and respect that, you know, even if we're talking about during the time of 2020, when we look at how the real estate was going, it was the same process. It was supply and demand, right? So,
Absolutely.
you know, people were, you know, we were jumping and saying, hey, you know, the interest rates were at the lowest it had ever been in years, in history, at, you know, down to 2% or less. How many people, you know, took that opportunity? Some people did, some people didn't. I would tell you, I was one of those people who took that opportunity, because you understood at that point that you could afford, the affordability was there to get something that you may not have been able to afford if that interest rate was at 5 or 6% or above, right? So it's just trying to understanding and really understanding what the dynamics of wealth is when it comes to just money. It's all about understanding economic wealth. And that's where a lot of times we miss those opportunities when you don't think in dollars and you just think in cents, then you're kind of stuck there. And like we say it around our dinner table, this is not always the type of conversation we have, but it should be the consistent conversation that we have. You have to understand economic wealth and understanding why it's all about the color green versus every other color that goes on, or every other conversation, you know, and what you're doing is fantastic. You know, you got me excited because I'm like, ooh, I'm going in the right direction.
Yes.
I know I'm doing the right thing, you know, even though I don't do it for myself. I do it myself. I do have people who, you know, help me with my trading and all that, but I have an understanding of what it means. And I was one of those people, you know, the fear of like, oh my gosh, you know, you're taking my money and you're doing what, you know, but at the same token, it is a great way and great path of building more wealth. And, you know, the other thing that I don't know, I'm sure you've heard some of, or I'm really getting into is, it's wine investment. And they have this vino investment program going on. I'm like, oh, that's going to be my new things. I don't know if you've heard about that one, but that's a new popular thing that's going on now too. So, you know, it's just taking the opportunity to realize that there's other ways to bring and grow wealth within, you know, yourself and for your family, and leaving that legacy, but building it in a way where you don't feel like you have to strain yourself in order to make the money that you want to make. If you really truly understand that, you know, economics is the key to everything. It's the key, not just to survive. Absolutely. It is the key. So, you know, and with
absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the fact, I said, I love the fact that you are out here teaching that. So while we're talking about that, tell us about your best-selling book, ebook, Income on Demand.
Yes. So I'm so proud of that book. Although it's a very easy read, I created it to really help the person that is just beginning. The person who's like, yeah, the stock market, okay, I've been considered everything, but I don't know where to begin.
Right.
So, but I created that in order to help that individual, but really help them to understand the market, not just from a content perspective, but from a practical one. So the book is, it has different activities within it. It has videos embedded within it to really help someone to begin to practice and learn the context of the stock market. So, yes, so super proud of it. So happy that it became a #1 Amazon bestseller. And I believe still has 5 stars on Amazon. So people like it. So that's a great thing.
That's kind of important, right? Absolutely.
Right. Exactly.
But I like how you talk about that. You have videos, and so it's not just sitting there and reading. You're actually trying to show people how this works, because you know, there are many people who are visual, so reading doesn't always bring them what they need up front. So, you know, be able to put together the two of them, the visual and the reading, it gives you sometimes a better understanding of what you're getting yourself into. So I do like that concept of your book. And then you have this Stocks and Sorrows. Talk a little bit about that, because that sounds
Yes.
exciting. That sounds very exciting.
Yes, I am so grateful, to be honest. So I'll just give you a quick backstory around Stocks and Swords. So I have a student who's actually a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And there was about over a year ago, I was sitting in my living room and I was thinking about how amazing it is that Sigma Gamma Rho Centennial was at that point this upcoming year, which meant that as a collective, all 4 of the historically Black sororities, collectively, we would have contributed over 400 years of service to our communities, both here domestically as well as abroad. So I was thinking to myself, like, wow, that's amazing. Like, oh my goodness, we need to commemorate this moment.
Right.
But of course, I'm not, not a president or anything like that. So the limited beliefs start to creep in, like, okay, Laquore, you can't do nothing about this, But then as I sat back and I began to think about it, I'm like, well, maybe you can. What if we use this time period that we are all gifted with to really work to set our families up from a financial standpoint for the next 400 years? And so from there, I was like, you know what? I can teach. I mean, I know about the stock market, so maybe I can put together something and begin to teach the women in these respective sororities. And so that's where Stocks and Swords was born. The idea was born. But again, as I mentioned, limiting beliefs came in. I was scared. I held on to it for over a year. But then God, I just kept coming back. And God was like, go. And so I said, okay, you sure? Like, go. And so I had a chance to meet with my chapter president, spoke with her about the idea. She loved it. And I decided to go forth with it. And so launched it last September of 2001 and has since grown a Facebook community now of over almost 6,500 women are in a part of it now. And they're all 4 sororities are within this group. So I love it. I teach a free Stocks and Swords Stock Market 101 class every single Sunday because I'm on a mission. My goal is to educate each sorority, a number of women that reflects their founding year. So, for example, with Alpha Kappa Alpha, they were founded in 1908. So my goal is to educate 1,908 women of Alpha Kappa Alpha, 1,913 women of Delta Sigma Theta, and so forth and so forth. So I have a whole Stocks and Swords challenge going on where I'm keeping the ladies updated as to where each sorority is. But it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I love that. I love the concept. I love that you put it out there and you actually move forward with it because, it's great that we can all celebrate that how great we are as a sorority and the things that we've done and those accomplishments. But you don't hear a lot about, what are we doing beyond just, giving? What are you receiving? What other legacies are you actually leaving? And this is a very, very good legacy to leave in setting up your family with wealth and building that for, like you said, let's do it another 400 years or longer, right? But if you don't know anything about it, you're not going to provide that education because you just don't know, not to say that everybody who's in this or doesn't understand anything about stocks, but to be able to have that many, amazing women, in these sororities doing this, it's great. It is such a great concept. And I applaud you. I truly applaud you for doing that because I just, you don't hear enough about this, and we don't have, like I said, enough of these conversations. And so what you're doing is profound. And Dr. Meadows, I could be talking to you all night long about this because this is a great conversation. Yes. I love it. I really appreciate what you've accomplished and what you're doing because, like I said, we need more of this. We need to have these constant conversations about what it means to truly be wealthy, and it's understanding economics. And until we all understand it as a whole, we will always constantly be struggling. We'll always constantly be kind of behind the curve.
And there's no reason to be behind the curve. We have, more opportunities and more education and all these things to us that are in front of our faces than we've had in many, many years. It's taken us 400 years to get here. So, this is great. And obviously this has been a great conversation, but before you go, I definitely would like to ask you a couple more questions. First of all, do you have anything, you want to share, as far as, what other advice would you give about wanting to, for those who may be inspired or aspiring to get into stock trading?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say just do it, borrowing from Nike, but just make it happen. The thing is that I think a lot of times people are afraid, which is fair, right? Mm-hmm. Which is definitely fair. But I think once we educate ourselves and recognize that we can completely manage the risk along the way, then that helps to make that fear dissipate a bit, right? So spending some time really digging in, educating oneself about it, I think this is an important first step. So my advice will be just make it happen.
Exactly.
I can go on for days about that, but yes, absolutely.
Right. Well, and then if somebody is definitely interested in making that happen, how can they reach out to you, Dr. Meadows?
Yes, I would love to connect with anybody who has an interest in the market or just simply has questions, because I'm here to be of support. So you can reach me. A quick and easy way to reach me is on Instagram. You can find me at invest2give. That's my handle. You can also reach me by I have on my website, invest2give.com, and it's invest2give.com as well. You can submit a message to me there as well. And then also on Facebook. I'm on there every day because I'm in there with my ladies in the Facebook group.
Okay.
So you can definitely reach me on Facebook.
Oh, right. Well, that's social media. There we go. Right. We definitely need to have it. And I said, it's great that you are doing what you're doing. I mean, I'm just excited to have had this opportunity to communicate with you about it, because we don't hear enough about it. It's usually in a small circle, and that's great, if you're the person who's doing it. But in order to get this information out there, we have to be able to talk about it. You have to be able to share it and share these resources. And that's exactly what WSBI is all about, is your resources. And in order to be successful, we need to know what it is we're getting into. But, some people can't always afford to pay to get the information. So, hey, this is the perfect avenue, and the reason why this show exists is because there's enough resources and information that you can learn on your own, so you can take those steps that you need to take in order to be successful. So again, Dr. Laquore J. Meadows, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show this evening, and thank you for spending some time with me.
Thank you. The pleasure was truly all mine. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And again, for those listeners, I hope that you have enjoyed this evening's show, and I hope that you understand how important it is to know what investment really means and know how to invest. And if you don't understand how to invest, reach out to me. I would definitely get you connected to Dr. Laquore J. Meadows if you would like to talk to her specifically on financial investing and understanding how to trade on stocks. And you can reach out to me at Kimberly, WSBILC at gmail.com. So let's have this chat so we can get you to take those right steps, because we realize that it's a fear thing, but you don't have to be fearful when you have somebody who's very willing to step up and help you and guide you in the direction that you need to be guided to. And of course, if you want to talk about other things in regarding business and you want to take those dreams and turn them into goals, again, you can reach out to me at the same email address I just gave you at KimberlyWSBILC at gmail.com. And of course, if you want to hear and want more of your resource for success, we are now accepting monetary donations to support the podcast through Cash App, PayPal, Good Pods Tip Jar, or you can go directly to the website at www.wsbilc.com. But again, we would like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We'll be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcast. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.